It's time to go over the Covrprice top 10 list for the week, the top selling books in the comic book marketplace. Why are they there? Why should you get them or not? And let's take a look at some historical data on some established keys. All up next on this video from Bronzeville Comics. Hey there, panelologists. This is Jim from Bronzeville Comics coming to you with another video. And before we get started, like, comment, subscribe. We're this close to 4,900 subs. We will soon be announcing the details of the 5,000 subscriber giveaway. In addition, follow us on other socials on Instagram at Bronzeville_comics, on Whatnot at Bronzeville_comics. We do sales every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And coming up this Monday, which will be November 13th, we are going to do an all war books night. Early Silver Age war books. There are plenty of, if you're into war, Star Spangled, All American, Nick Fury, Our Army at War, you like Sergeant Rock, Unknown Soldier, there are going to be a ton of books available. So check us out on Monday the 13th at 10 p.m. Eastern time. There's a link in the description of this video. If you're not yet signed on to Whatnot, you can sign on, get $10 off your first purchase. Also, in the description of this video is a link to my eBay store as well as my email. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. So we're going to jump into the Covrprice top 10, look at those books and see why they made the top 10 list and if there's something that we might find interesting. So let's take a look right now. We're going to start at number 10 on the list, and it's a copy of Ghost Rider number 17. It's a Bjorn Barron's is it a 1 in 25 ratio? Near mint copies selling for about $60, and there were recent sales of 9/8 of this book, very recent book. The recent 9/8 were in starting in September, we're going about $60, and one just last week jumped up to 110. Well, what is the significance? The Weapons of Vengeance crossover was not what the community expected, but it's delivered so far. This is straight from the Covrprice website. The book was hard to acquire. It, as the average fan had no idea what Marvel had in store. That was until they reached the final page and saw the preview in Wolverine 36 and the debut of Helverine. So that Wolverine 36 has been on the list. I think Wolverine 37 as well. It's been a race for some collectors since to secure a copy, driving up the aftermarket price of this book exponentially. It's seen nearly $20 added to its near mint FMV since last week alone. I think the cover there, with Wolverine's claws in the foreground, Ghost Rider in the background. It is a pretty cool cover. It's a very recent book. And even though it's quote unquote hard to find, hard to acquire, there are plenty out there, right? There are stores that are sitting probably on, a couple dozen copies of this. And almost the vast majority of books are going to be 9.8 contenders because it's a recent book. So I'd be a little bit careful of this one. If you can find one for Covrprice at a store, go ahead, take a look. There's also an A cover. I'm not sure. That's a Ryan Stegman cover. Let's just go back. And it has Ghost Rider and Wolverine. $20. Yeah, high grades are $20. So either of those covers is pretty cool. Remember John Romita box. So this is a book from a few months ago. So that's number 10 on the list. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9, big surprise. The first appearance of Dazzler in X-Men 130. Now this again is an established key. It's all about the, the Sunday night football game and rumors surrounding Taylor Swift. We've been over this plenty of times before. This is a big key. Even if it's driving up the value, or at least maintaining the value. Even if Taylor Swift is not Dazzler, right? If we never see her in the MCU, if we never even see Dazzler, this is still a part of the Dark Phoenix storyline. It is a Claremont Byrne X-Men book. People collect that run. It's a book that you can find in high grade, 4,500 universal copies, 342 9.8s. Let's look at the most common is a 9.6, right? So that'll give us a little more market detail. But what we see here is like it went up, it spiked up to ridiculous values, near $1,000 during the end of 2021, and then it corrected. But now it's kind of that correction has been kind of staved off and it's jumped up in the last 4 or 5 months to, from about a 300-ish dollar book, $300+ book to nearly a $600 book. It's not quite doubled in value. So it is a key. Before, let's see, the last sale in 2020 was going for about $260. So I don't think, it's above what the trend said it would be. If tomorrow the rumors disappear, it's probably about a $300 book and a 9.6. Just keep that in mind. Not a $600 book. So it is, at some point it's going to correct, whether it's when we get the news that there is no news or we actually see the movie and we move past it. Because I don't see Taylor Swift playing this character like in 10 films. But you never know. I mean, Marvel, Disney can drive a truckload of money up. Let's move on to number 8 on the list. And it is a copy of X-Men 27, the Peach Momoko New Champions variant. Raw copies are selling, not much detail. Anywhere between $5 and this is a high sale of $25. So why is this on the list? Peach Momoko, a very popular artist. It is a variant, but I don't think it's a ratio variant, is it? No, doesn't appear to be a ratio variant. Interesting. There are plenty of other variants. Look at how many variants there are for this book. There was a New York Comic-Con exclusive. Those prices are always jacked up right after the con. Anyway, why is this on the list? Like when the announcement Momoko would be heavily involved in the launch of a new Ultimate X-Men, creating and developing new heroes to fill out the team. One of those was May Storm, protege of Storm and a new member. Momoko pulled out all the stops, bringing her signature style to this cover featuring the character. So it is, I guess, the first cover appearance of May Storm. It remains to be seen. It's still an affordable book, and one that I would keep on. I could see picking up for Covrprice. I wouldn't put too much more into that. The next is a book that is very hot, and that is Universal Monsters Dracula issue 1 by James Tynion IV and Martin Simmons. This is the one per store Gabriel Rodriguez retailer thank you version of number 1. Again, look at all of these variant covers. This particular cover is going for about $40 some odd in the aftermarket. No 9.8s yet. The regular cover, the cover A, is a $5 book. So I think a lot of people are excited about this. I would say I think I have. If I haven't, I will. I think this is worth a pickup. Came out a couple of weeks ago. James Tynion, he's one of the most well-respected writers. I think it's probably worth a read, if nothing else. Dracula's a popular character. This is a take on kind of the Universal Monsters version, which would be a little bit different than even the Bram Stoker version, because the Universal Monsters version, starting with the 1931 film starring Bela Lugosi, and there was one really cool variant cover that had very much Lugosi vibes. This one, the Joshua Middleton cover. To be honest, this is the cover I would get, but that's just me. Maybe I'll just kind of look for this at the LCS. It's a $5 book, right? But just little history lessons. So the movie with Bela Lugosi came out in 1931, much like Frankenstein, which came out the same year. Those movies were based on stage plays that were done in the 1920s. So they basically reworked the idea of Bram Stoker's Dracula into a drawing room story, right? And if you watch the film, you can see where the stage adaptation aspects of it come in. If you're a fan of the 1931 Lugosi film, I would recommend there's a Spanish language version, since they did not have overdubbing at the time. They didn't have that technology. What they would do to create Spanish language films for the Latin American audience, they would at nighttime bring in a Spanish speaking cast. They'd bring in a completely different crew, but they'd use the same sets, a translated version of the script, and they'd shoot the same movie just with Spanish speaking actors. And it's kind of fascinating counterpoint. The guy who plays Conde Dracula is not nearly as effective as Bela Lugosi. He's kind of goofy, but the other characters, the other performances are really good, and it's, I think, a creepier version. Anyway, that's enough of Dracula. I'm going to pick up this book, but I'm not going to spend more than cover price. Thank you very much. And what do we have to say about this? I think just Tynan and the variants. Much harder to get the 11 variants. It's the only one appearing on this list 2 weeks in a row. I would say, you're probably going to be able to get this book at some point more affordably. I don't see it continuing to go up. It's brand new. So again, if you can get it cheap, fine. Get it for cover price, go ahead. Up next, this is the second week in a row, the Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. I think this is a different cover, though. This is the cover A. Last week, did we have a variant cover on it last week? Maybe not. Maybe, am I thinking that this is the right book? This is also a release that came out last month. It's a book that's selling for about $15 to $20 raw. Not yet any graded copies on the list. And the community spoke with a loud voice. They've decided on the opinion this book is begging for an adaptation. This will be new for IDW, as they aren't typically known for dark and gruesome titles that would translate well to the screen. Usually they have properties that we've already seen on the screen. They get, things like, G.I. Joe and Transformers and stuff. Despite that, the title features anthropomorphic animals confronting a serial killer, has captured readers and going gangbusters in the aftermarket. Immediately after its release, cheap copies out online sold out. Usually we see hype die down a bit, but it is to a degree due to availability. It's sustaining success, and how could it not, with support from the likes of Patton Oswalt, who went so far as to claim, finally, murder and forensics are adorable. There are other covers. I might dip into this, like a second print would be worth, just to grab the read and see if it's worth ongoing. We're up to 3 issues of this now, and they're cover price issues. They're not yet been released. So, it sounds like it might be worth a read if you can get it for cover price. Might be a fun read, if that's a genre you might be interested in. It might be a little niche, anthropomorphic animal serial killers. So, anyway, let's move on to Amazing Spider-Man number 36. This variant edition by Arthur Adams. Very similar to some of his other covers, specifically the recent Snowbird Alpha Flight cover. The one difference between those two books is that it is a ratio variant, but Amazing Spider-Man sells a lot more than Alpha Flight, so there are more copies of this out there. Not yet any graded copies. Books selling $40-ish. This is Amazing Spider-Man. You have how many different variants already, but it's the Arthur Adams variant that is drawing people's attention, specifically like the bottom middle of the cover. I'm not sure these, and it's a very similar pose to the Alpha Flight cover. I'm not sure this is really the most interesting book cover that he's done. Black Cat appears to be main focus on the variant cover. Fans are going to pick it up. 2 weeks in a row, it's been on the hot list. First appearance of the Repossessor. Not really. Demonic Repo Man, unearthed by Goblin Queen to reclaim her children. So that is not the reason that this book is selling, because the cover A is going for $5, which is also the first edition of the Repossessor. So it's the Art Adams variant cover. If you're a fan of Arthur Adams' Good Girl art, This might be a book for you. I don't think I'd be a little wary of long-term value, only because as a 1 in 25, ASM is one of the more heavily sold titles, so there are just more of them out there. I think it's the ones like the Young Allies kind of book that, there aren't many, and there aren't many stores that are ordering 25 copies, so there's much more scarcity. Let's move on to, what are we up to? Number 4, and it's the Max, an Image number 1. First appearance of the Max, 9.8s go for about $100, but you can get it under $10 raw. Why is this on the list? Well, rumors circulating about a potential Max movie in development with Channing Tatum reportedly attached to the project. No confirmation has been released, but you have a dedicated fan base of, people grew up reading this book when it first came out. An animated version in the 90s. There is something. And one of the things about creator-owned projects like the Max, it's much easier for studios to get that intellectual property than Marvel or DC. Marvel's a morass, between all the different studios. But I'm interested in this because it has been an established key. We're only really looking at 9.8s, and there are probably no scarcity of them out there. If you go to a flea market this weekend, you're probably going to find a copy of Max number 1. There are only 1,400 copies, but 54% of them are 9.8s. People really aren't going to submit this unless they think it's a 9.8 contender. And if we look at the sales history, right, we're looking at, it was historically about $50, $60 book. Not really anything exciting as we lead into comic boom. It went up as high as $150, and recently it settled back again, kind of in that area. One for $32 in April, and then it's ticked up recently, to close to $100. Can you get one on eBay? Let us see. MAXX1. 9.8, $215. Starting bid at $99. It's the darker image that is actually, I think, his first appearance. And then there's this mail-in exclusive. I'm not sure the values of this. Newsstand is a whole different story. Mail away. But just the cover A of this book. I had gotten the mail away as part of a collection. I don't know if I sold it or not. I got to dig it out, I guess, and see if I did. Max. Yeah. $100 from my comic shop. Might be able to get it cheaper on their website if you're interested in such things. If you have a newsie, that's going to be worth more. Let's see. Can we get the info on this? How much more? Glow in the dark, ash can, newsstand. 41 track sales in a newsstand. Boo. Sometimes Covrprice doesn't want to open up the new window here. Oh, come on. Nope. Why does this happen? There we go. There's the newsstand, 9.8. Yeah. I mean, and you're paying a premium for the 9.8. 9.8, you're talking about $900 book in a newsstand. Very hard to find. Only 53 universal newsstands on the census, only 17 9.8s. So what about darker image one? Because I have a copy of that, but I don't know if it's a 9.8 contender. It says a newsstand. I think the Max actually appeared in that first. There's the newsstand. And yeah, $400 in a 9.8. I have to dig that one out and see if it's worth grading. Yeah. And the $400 sale was back in June. Interesting. Let's move on to number 2 and the Dazzler. Number 1. Once again, we got Dazzler on the list. Raw copies, again, in about the $20 range for high-grade raws. It's the 9.8 that is, going at about $270. Let's just take a quick look at that. We look at this book every week. And this is one of the books that has kind of held its value, that from the comic boom hasn't really decreased. So let's take a look at the trend here. And it's held. I mean, it jumped up to about 150 from, it had been in the $100 range, jumped up to about 150, went down, not too far down, never fell really back to where it was. And it's been bolstered by this news. I mean, let's look at the last, several sales, all in the $250 range. Right. So if I were pricing this book out, shoot, I don't think I'd probably price it about $250, maybe a little bit more. That's what you're going to get. Can we get a Dazzler 1 CGC 9.8? Now, Dazzler, they're not going to be any newsstands. It was a direct only. 450. Yeah, you get some crazy stuff going on eBay. There aren't a lot available right now. Signed copy for $3,500 and assigned for, I don't know who signed it, but $430. Yeah, just not a lot available. I guess, but I'm sure people are submitting them. Yeah. $405 for a signed copy. I mean, that's kind of interesting, considering that's only about $100 more, signed by Jim Shooter. I don't know. Wouldn't it be interesting if we get one signed by Taylor Swift? But that's going to be almost impossible because she's not going to do a CGC signing anytime soon. I'm sure she's well too busy, and you're not going to find a CGC witness, probably wherever she would be doing autograph signings. Okay, let's move to number 2 on the list, and we have Spawn number 1. That news has been going on, that they're getting close. Blumhouse says they're doing a release in 2025. Blumhouse just released the Five Nights at Freddy's movie that's doing very well. So I think that gives people confidence that we will see Spawn 1 or Spawn in the big screen at some time. Jamie Foxx is attached to the project. Basically the book that started started Image Comics. It's still going. There is a newsstand of this. There are 9.9s out there. I don't have one. But we look at the 9.8. Again, it's the trend down in the 9.8 has been a lot slower, but it's still been a downtrend. It jumped from 140 to 260 during the comic boom. And then it's been slowly going down ever since. If we get, I guess, like a trailer or some more definitive movie news, it might jump back up into the $200 range. So, but that's just kind of been a slower regression to the trend line than a lot of other books. Let's look at number 1. Star Wars Hyperspace Stories number 10. The regular, I have no idea. Let's take a look at why this is on the list. Bad Batch is a blood offshoot based on Star Wars universe, focusing on a group of clones who differ from their brothers and all possess unique skills. Dave Filoni Lovechild debuted in the Clone Wars before receiving their own series in 2021. Debut in the comic universe. This book marks their first appearance. So this is the first appearance of the Bad Batch. I'm not really familiar with it. I'm not familiar with the Star Wars animated series stuff. Again, when is this book from? Yeah, this book is just coming out. That's really, this is their first appearance? That seems odd to me. Or is it a reprint? Bad Batch. Yeah. Huh. And this is a book that's just coming out now, right? November 1st, came out last week. I don't think I got it. Look for it at your LCS. That's going to be the moral of the story here. And it's about $10. So, it's not, it's selling. I'm sure it was solicited. If we look at some of the aftermarket sales, first Echo, excitement about her series, the Black Widow Key, Miles, of course, Deadpool, Gambit. Astonishing X-Men 18, and this is the first Victor Timely. What is 18? I'm going to just go through these quickly. We're not going to do Ultimate X-Men, Armor, first appearance of Armor, and then Bodies. This it's a show on Netflix, based on this comic. Who knew? So that's going to do it for the list today. We went over the Cover Price top 10, a bunch of new books, and my advice is just look out for them. If you want to pick it up at your LCS, that's fine, but I wouldn't overspend for it. And of course, Dazzler is, going to be perennially on this list. She's kind of pushed Wolverine and Deadpool to the side for the time being. And the most interesting thing is the Max, because everybody has a copy of it. Max number 1. In high grade, another question. And high grade newsstand, very much another question. So anyway, thanks for stopping by. Let me know what you think of this list. Are there any of the newer books that you've picked up? In the meantime, take a look at, leave that in the comments. Take a look at a couple of my other videos here. And this is Jim saying until next time, enjoy your comics.